In today's show, we're talking all about setting up shipping in Google Merchant Center. So you've probably seen this horrible error, missing shipping information, which is pretty frustrating, and there are like several different ways to kind of address this issue. So today what I'm going to run through as quickly as I can for you is why Merchant Center and Google are insisting on this information, the 4 different methods of adding the shipping information that you can do. So that's the shipping information and rates in the Merchant Center itself. You can add data to your Google Shopping feed, or if you're using a Google Sheet, I'll show you quickly how to do that. And then you could also use some rules in Google Merchant Center to set those shipping values. So as usual, if you have questions as I'm running through this, then please do ask in the comments. I would love to hear from you. Even if you're getting this right, you just want to give a fist bump or something, that's cool, absolutely welcome. But if you are stuck, then do ask in the comments. If you'd like us to have a look at this because you're stuck, then you can reach out to us via tillison.co.uk and we'll have a look at this for you. So I'm going to run through fairly basic configuration. There's just way too many options here to run through all of them, and some e-commerce stores have some fairly complex shipping rates and tables and delivery charges based on weight and destination. You can do all of those things, but instead of making this a 3-hour-long video, we're going to keep it short and show you the basics and the fundamentals. So firstly, why does Google Merchant Center need this information? So what's going to happen is Google's bot is going to follow the link for each of your products. It's effectively going to do a test purchase. So it's going to add a product to the shopping cart and it's going to look for the delivery charge for that one product. Okay, so what it's doing, it's going to check your shipping statement, if you like. So if you say delivery is free and the bot adds this £10 product to the cart and there's a £5 delivery charge, you are effectively misrepresenting to Google's users what the price is. Therefore, Google Merchant Center is then going to disapprove that product because your shipping basically is a big fat fib. So that's what's going to cause you your problem. So the thing to remember here is Google is only going to test one product at a time. So you don't need to worry about configuring rules for if you buy 10 of these items, then you get free delivery. If you buy 3 or 4 or 5 items, then it's free delivery, or delivery goes up or down or whatever. The only rule you need to think about really is one product. What is the delivery charge if I buy that one product? Everything else, don't worry about it. Just leave it alone. Before we go ahead with more detail, make sure you subscribe right now for more tips on Google Shopping. There's some more shows coming up over the next few weeks about how to optimize Merchant Center and your Google Shopping campaigns. And as always, if you like what I'm telling you and it's helpful, please give us a thumbs up. We do appreciate it. So, shipping information and rates. So in Google Merchant Center, we head to delivery, not shipping. But anyway, it's shipping, delivery, same thing. And then what we can do in here is create our delivery service. So let's just call it default. We've got a standard one. Your service area, hopefully this doesn't scroll. So we'll pick United Kingdom, currency, pounds. And then we're going to look at things like delivery time. So as long as we get orders by 2 p.m. In... Let's assume you're London. Handling time, let's assume that we're going to have this 1 business day. And then transit time, let's assume we're doing next day delivery. You configure this for your own setting, of course. Advanced settings, if you have a minimum order value, so you won't ship anything for less than £50 or £25 or something, then obviously put that in there. And then the delivery rates, as you can see here, we can create delivery rates based on the shipping label, which you might have in your data. So that will be in your Google Shopping feed or in the Google Sheet. We'll come to that shortly. So you could effectively create a rule in here that says if the shipping label is free, then shipping is free. If the shipping label is charged, then it's £5 or whatever. So we could do that if we want. So let's just first say, okay, this applies to all products, or we can filter products based on a delivery label. Again, that data's in your Google Shopping feed or your Google Sheet. So let's assume we're just setting a blanket policy for all products. Our delivery rate name is, let's just call it next day. And then we can create a single rate for all orders. So we can say all orders fixed rate, and if you are doing free delivery, literally that's it. Continue and finish the process, and that will mean free delivery for all products. However, many e-commerce stores will have free delivery over a certain threshold. So we add a dimension in here for order price. So we can say free delivery from 1 penny to let's say £29.99, and that we're going to charge £5 for our next day delivery. And if it's £30 or more, we have a fixed rate which is free. So you could do something like that. Let's just get rid of that one. So another example might be order weight. So if you have the attribute in your Google Shopping feed or Google Sheet for product weight, and your delivery charge is based on the weight of that product, remember, you only need to worry about one product. So what this will do is look at the data you have in your feed, and it will create a shipping price based on the weight of that item. So if you have anything up to 10 kilos is free delivery, anything over 10 kilos you would do that in here. Again, pretty straightforward. Okay, and we can also create number of items in exactly the same way. So you're creating just a table in here for Google to work out what the shipping price is going to be, and then remember, when a user is searching Google Shopping and they find your product and it's £10, the shipping price will also be included because the Merchant Center knows what that is. So that's a very simple way of configuring the table in the Google Merchant Center and configuring those rules. So something just to be cautious about here is, once you have set this, it doesn't immediately fix the problem and get rid of that error message that we saw earlier. It will take Google a little while to process that data, so that error is going to hang around. I've seen it for 3-4 days. And it will take some time. If you're still stuck there, I mean, certainly go in and reprocess your feed as soon as you've set your rules, but keep checking it. It should go down after 24 to 48 hours. If you're finding after 3 or 4 days maybe that's not fixed, then you probably need to speak to Google support and say, come on guys, can you reprocess this? Sometimes it just needs a manual intervention from Google support. Other times it will just do this for you. So, you know, and the annoying thing with Merchant Center is it's not going to tell you where it is in that process. It is damned annoying. Welcome to our world. This is what happens to us all the time. So, so that's the basics of how to add the tables. Next, let's turn our attention to the feed attributes for Google Shopping around the shipping options that you have. So as you can see in this example, we don't necessarily have this kind of populated in this particular feed. We don't particularly need to, but you can see the options here. So we've got G : shipping weight, and then normally we would specify a weight in there. So that's where the rules in that previous example I gave you, where it would look at that in kilos and then calculate the shipping price. This particular feed is free delivery and everything, so we don't need to worry about it, but that's where you would set that. So in your e-commerce store, so if you're using WooCommerce or Shopify, Magento, any of those kind of standard systems, you need to make sure this data is in your database for each product, and therefore that it's being extracted from that into your feed, pushed into the Merchant Center, and then the Merchant Center can do the calculations based on those rules we talked about. So we've also then got G : shipping, and then a subset with the country, the region, the service, and the price. So remember, this iterates through every single product. So if you have configured the shipping information in Magento or your e-commerce platform, you can output that in your feed, and then you don't have to worry about those merchant center rules at all. Literally all your data is coming straight from your database. This particular method is the one that I would strongly recommend, because if you create some rules in the merchant center, either in the shipping information or configuring some rules separately, which I'm going to show you shortly, then there is a potential for those to go wrong. So I always recommend have the data correct in your database, and then there's less chance of errors happening, or if they do happen, they're only in one place. Okay, and it's very difficult to spot these errors, you know, if they are happening, because they won't flag up anywhere. It'll just be the data will be wrong, and you'll just have no idea. So it could be costing you sales. So yeah, absolutely keep the data correct in your feed. That should be the master source, ideally. I appreciate you can't always do that, but if you can, absolutely go for that route. We've got, you know, the service, we've got courier, it could be air freight, could be whatever your shipping method is. You could have multiple shipping methods, and then the price for that as well. So it's defined in the data that comes from your database. And then obviously you can see that closed G shipping at the end there. So that's what your feed should look like if you're using an RSS feed or creating one manually. That's what it should look like, and then that's defined, and it should pull that data in. And then if you've got any individual errors, hopefully you should have far fewer errors in your data, but those that you have, you can come back and check your feed manually and make sure it's correct, and then wait for that to reprocess. So the next one we want to have a look at is using a Google Sheet to push the data into the merchant center. So Google Sheets for me is probably my least favorite method of doing this. If you are using, I don't know, if you have like 5, 10, 15, 20 products maybe, and they don't really change much, they're pretty static, then a Google Sheet's probably a reasonable workaround rather than using plugins and all this kind of stuff. The problem with this is this data is disconnected from your database in the back end of your e-commerce store. So if a price changes and you don't change it here, you're going to get product disapprovals. So this is very much a manual process. So I wouldn't recommend it, but if it suits you, then great. So in here, if we have a look at the examples in the sheet, we have delivery, delivery weight, length, width, height, delivery labels. So again, if you're creating rules based on a delivery label, then just put a label in here and it will create that for you. But if you're creating a delivery price for each individual product, again, you could just put that in your Google Sheet, rather like we saw in the feed, and we can specify the country, the shipping, you know, the shipping country, the region, the service. So maybe you got next day, or you've got a 3 to 5 day delivery, and then the price for each. So you'd specify all of them in that field there, and then that would effectively tell Merchant Center straight from your Google Sheet what the delivery rate is. So again, that's maybe something to consider. You can literally, in this example, we'd literally just have a shipping column, and then you just have a price in there, but it has to look like GBP 5.00. So it has to be in the correct format. So finally, let's take a look at creating rules in the Google Merchant Center to configure some of those attributes that maybe you have missing from your data for whatever reason. Again, this isn't particularly recommended, but sometimes you have to hack these things to make them work just because of the format of your data or whatever. So if you want to do it this way, head to products, head to feeds, select the feed that you want, go to rules, and then we're going to create a rule in here. And then head to shipping, and then we can set the content for shipping height, label, length, weight, width. Now, of course, if you're doing this in a Google Sheet, you may as well put the data in there. If you're using a feed and for whatever reason the data isn't in there, then maybe this is a bit of a workaround. Again, not ideal, but you could do this. So in here, first what we need to set is a condition. So we can pick. Let's pick our product type. Let's assume that you've created product types for each of your products, and then we can say if the product type equals, you should know your product type, so let's just say it contains something for now, or if product type contains else. So obviously pick the product types that you want. Then we can set this to, let's just say small parcel. Oops. Okay. And then what that will do is any of the product types that contain something or else, obviously create your own rule, will then set that product, the shipping label to small parcel, and then my rule elsewhere in the shipping table will then say small parcels are free delivery or whatever it might be. If you need to set different product types, then you would save this one, apply it, and then put another rule in to say if product type contains something else, then set that to heavy parcel, for example, and then obviously set your rules as that. So fairly complicated, as you can see. It's not a preferred method of setting shipping, and in my opinion, if you're an e-commerce store, one of the big things, the important things for customers is just keep it simple. Just keep things as simple as you can. I would strongly recommend, if you can do free next day delivery, then it's the simplest thing to understand. I know logistically, you know, commercially that's not always possible, but creating complex delivery charges really does confuse customers, and it will cost you sales. So just try and keep that simple, and that should mean that the rules in the Google Merchant Center and your shipping configuration are also fairly straightforward, so you shouldn't need to go to this level of complexity. If you do have complex shipping rules, my recommendation is that you do those in your database in Magento, BigCommerce, Shopify, wherever you do them. Just create those shipping rules and prices in there and output the data via the shipping attributes in the feed and provide them that way to the Merchant Center. It really is the best way to go. So if you've enjoyed that, please do give us a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe right now for more videos on Google Shopping, and we'll help you optimize that and make more sales.